So this starts about a year ago when I moved to LA for grad school. I'm 24, studying marketing at USC, and living on a tight budget, like most grad students. I found this amazing apartment in West Hollywood through Craigslist, way nicer than anything I should have been able to afford on my TA salary. Enter Madison. Madison was the current tenant looking for a roommate, and honestly, she seemed like a dream. Picture this: 5'7", blonde, looks like she stepped out of a Pinterest board titled Effortless California Girl. Her Instagram had like 80K followers, she drove a white Range Rover, and her side of the apartment looked like it belonged in Architectural Digest. During our meetup, she's wearing these designer jeans, I looked them up later, $400, sipping a $20 smoothie and talking about her influencer career and brand partnerships. She tells me she's 25, works in digital marketing, red flag number one that I totally missed, and would love a chill, drama-free roommate. The rent was $1,800, split two ways for this gorgeous two-bedroom with a rooftop deck in WeHo. I'm thinking there's no way this is real, but Madison explains that she got a, quote, great deal because she knew the landlord. Looking back, I should have asked more questions, but I was desperate and honestly a little starstruck. So I move in, and at first, everything is perfect. Madison and I click immediately. She's funny, generous, always offering to pay when we go out, and seems genuinely interested in being friends. She's constantly taking these gorgeous photos for her Instagram, outfit posts, smoothie bowls, yoga poses on our rooftop at sunset. Her feed is this curated aesthetic dream, and I'll admit I was a little jealous of how put together her life seemed. About 3 months after moving in, I start dating Jake. I met him in my statistics class. He's this sweet, nerdy guy getting his PhD in data science. Not traditionally hot, but he's got these gorgeous green eyes, makes me laugh, and actually listens when I talk. Plus, he's one of those rare guys who's genuinely smart without being condescending about it. Madison seemed happy for me at first. She'd ask about our dates, give me outfit advice, even help me pick out lingerie for our first overnight. TMI, I know, but it's relevant to the story. She seemed like the perfect supportive friend. Then things started getting weird. It began small. Madison would accidentally walk out of her room in just a towel when she knew Jake was coming over. She started wearing these tiny workout outfits and doing yoga in the living room whenever he visited. She'd interrupt our conversations to ask Jake's opinion on her outfits or her latest Instagram post. I mentioned it to Jake once, and he just laughed it off. "She's just being friendly," he said. "Besides, you know you're the only girl I'm interested in." Sweet, right? I thought so too. But Madison was just getting started. About 6 months into my relationship with Jake, Madison's behavior escalated. She started casually mentioning that she and Jake had so much in common. They both liked craft beer, since when? They both loved hiking. Madison had never mentioned hiking before. And apparently they had deep conversations about data analysis when I wasn't around. That last one really got to me because Madison had literally failed basic statistics in undergrad and always joked about being bad with numbers. But the real turning point came on my birthday in March. I'd planned this small party, just a few friends from school, Jake, and Madison. Nothing fancy, just dinner and drinks at our place. Madison offered to help with decorations and said she'd handle getting the cake. The day of the party, I come home from class to find Madison transformed. And I mean transformed. She's wearing this stunning black bodycon dress that probably cost more than my monthly food budget. Full glam makeup, and she's basically turned our apartment into a nightclub. Professional lighting, a photographer friend taking pictures, the works. "Surprise!" she squeals when I walk in. "I thought we'd make your party Instagram-worthy." Now, I appreciate the effort, but something felt off. This wasn't my aesthetic at all. It was all Madison style. And she's posing for photos constantly, barely acknowledging that it's supposed to be my birthday party. But whatever, I figure she's just trying to be nice and maybe get some content for her page. Then Jake arrives, and I watch Madison's entire demeanor change. She gets this sultry, flirty energy that I'd never seen before. She's touching his arm when she talks, laughing a little too hard at his jokes, and finding excuses to pose with him for photos. The final straw was when she pulled him aside for what she called a private conversation about a business opportunity she wanted his advice on. They disappeared onto the rooftop for like 45 minutes during my own birthday party. When they came back down, Jake looked uncomfortable and Madison had this satisfied smirk on her face. She spent the rest of the night acting like the hostess of her own party, posting story after story on Instagram about the amazing night with amazing people. That night, after everyone left, I confronted her. "Madison, what was that whole thing with Jake about?" She gives me this innocent look. "What do you mean? I was just asking for his advice about potentially monetizing my data analytics posts." "Since when do you post about data analytics?" "I'm diversifying my content strategy. Jake thinks I could really tap into the female entrepreneur market." I wanted to call bullshit, but I also didn't want to seem paranoid or jealous, so I let it go. Big mistake.
After my birthday party, Madison's pursuit of Jake became relentless, but she was smart about it. Everything was disguised as friendship or career advice or coincidence. Suddenly, Madison discovered a passion for all of Jake's interests. She started posting about hiking, craft breweries, and even data-driven decision-making. Her Instagram pivoted from pure lifestyle content to this pseudo-intellectual aesthetic that was clearly designed to appeal to Jake. She'd text him directly with questions about her posts. "Hey, can you check if my statistics in this post are accurate?" Or, "I'm thinking about collaborating with this tech startup. Can I get your opinion?" And Jake, being the helpful guy he is, would always respond. He'd spend time explaining concepts to her, reviewing her posts, even helping her fact-check her educational content. I tried to stay cool about it, but it was driving me insane. Madison had never shown interest in any intellectual pursuits before. Her idea of deep conversation used to be debating which Kardashian had the best business sense. Then came the accidental encounters. Madison would randomly show up at the coffee shop where Jake studied. She'd coincidentally be at the same bars we went to. She started shopping at the same grocery store as him and would text me pictures of them bumping into each other in the produce section. "OMG, look who I ran into! Small world!" The photos always showed her looking effortlessly gorgeous, while Jake looked slightly confused but polite. But the real escalation happened when Madison had started having emergencies that required Jake's help specifically. Her laptop crashed and she needed help recovering her content calendar. Her car broke down near campus and Jake was the only person she could think to call. Her business partner flaked on a meeting and she needed someone with Jake's expertise to fill in. Every single emergency happened when I was in class or at work and couldn't help her myself. Jake, being genuinely nice, would always step in to help. And Madison made sure to document every interaction on her social media. Stories of them at coffee shops, working on her business strategy. Photos of them at the mechanic, dealing with car troubles. Candid shots of Jake explaining something on her laptop with captions like, "So grateful for friends who share their expertise." To anyone looking at her Instagram, it would seem like she and Jake were spending a lot of time together. The breaking point came in April. I was staying late at the library working on my thesis when I got a text from Madison. "Emergency! Can you come home? Something happened." I'm thinking someone broke in, or there's a fire, or something actually serious. I pack up my stuff and race home, my heart pounding. I walk into our apartment and find Madison on the couch in tears, wearing this tiny silk pajama set with Jake sitting next to her, looking extremely uncomfortable. "Thank God you're here," Madison says, immediately jumping up to hug me. "I had such a scary experience today, and Jake was kind enough to come make sure I was okay." Apparently, Madison had been followed by some guy while she was jogging and felt unsafe being alone. She'd called Jake because she didn't want to worry me during my important study session. Jake looked at me with this apologetic expression. She called and sounded really shaken up. I just came to make sure she was all right. Now, I'm not heartless. If Madison genuinely felt unsafe, of course I'd want someone to help her. But something about the whole situation felt staged. Madison had stopped crying the moment I walked in and seemed more focused on making sure I saw her cuddled up next to Jake than actually discussing what happened. That night, after Jake left, I decided to do some digging. I casually mentioned the stalker incident to our neighbor Sarah, who's usually home during the day and notices everything that happens in our building. Stalker? Sarah looked confused. Madison went for a run this morning and came back like 20 minutes later laughing on the phone with someone. She seemed fine to me. Interesting. I also noticed that Madison had posted her usual workout selfies throughout the day, including one from her run that morning. She looked happy and relaxed, not like someone who'd just been terrorized by a stranger. That's when I realized what was really happening. Madison wasn't just being flirty or overly friendly, she was running a calculated campaign to seduce my boyfriend, and she was using her Instagram skills to document and manipulate the entire thing. But I still had no concrete proof, and I didn't want to seem like the paranoid, jealous girlfriend. So I decided to watch and wait. I didn't have to wait long.
The next few weeks were tense. I was hyper aware of every interaction between Madison and Jake, but trying to play it cool. Madison seemed to sense that I was getting suspicious, so she actually toned down the obvious flirting. Instead, she shifted to a more subtle approach, positioning herself as the understanding friend who Jake could talk to about anything. "You know, Jake mentioned that you've been really stressed about your thesis," she'd say. "I told him that grad school can be hard on relationships and he should make sure to be patient with you." Or, "Jake was asking me about vacation spots because he wants to plan something special for you two. We spent like an hour looking at Airbnbs. He's such a thoughtful boyfriend." Everything was framed as her being helpful and supportive, but it was really about establishing herself as Jake's confidant and making sure I knew they were having private conversations about our relationship. The breakthrough came in early May. I was doing laundry in our building's basement when I overheard Madison on a phone call. She was talking to someone, presumably a friend, and I could hear her through the thin walls. "I mean, he's definitely interested, but she's always around. No, I think he's just comfortable in the relationship, like not unhappy enough to leave, but not totally satisfied either. Trust me, I can tell. I've been studying his behavior for months." I pressed my ear closer to the wall. "The key is making him realize what he's missing. I've been showing him glimpses of what life could be like with someone who actually shares his interests, someone who appreciates his intelligence. She's sweet, but she's not exactly stimulating conversation, if you know what I mean." My blood was boiling, but I kept listening. "I think the camping trip will be perfect. Just me, him, and a few other people so it doesn't look suspicious. Get him away from her for a few days, show him how much fun he can have with someone who's actually on his level." "What? No, she can't come. I already told him it was adults only and she'd be too busy with school anyway." Camping trip? What camping trip? I quickly finished my laundry and went back upstairs, my mind racing. That evening, when Jake came over for dinner, I casually brought up weekend plans. "So, what are you thinking for this weekend? Want to do something fun?" Jake looked slightly uncomfortable. Actually, Madison invited me on this camping trip with some of her friends. I wasn't sure if you'd be interested. She said it was going to be pretty outdoorsy and you've been so stressed with your thesis." "Who else is going?" I think just a few of her influencer friends. She said they're all really into hiking and stuff." I smiled sweetly. "That sounds fun. I love camping. When did she invite you?" "A few days ago. She said she didn't want to bother you because you've been so busy." Of course she did. "Well, I'd love to come. Let me text her and see if there's room for one more." Jake looked relieved. "That would be great. I was hoping you could come."
I went to my room and immediately texted Madison. "Hey, Jake mentioned the camping trip this weekend. It sounds so fun. Is there space for me to join?" Her response came back in less than a minute. "Oh no, I'm so sorry, but we already booked the campsite and it's at max capacity. Plus, I thought you'd be too busy with school stuff. Maybe next time." I screenshot the conversation and then did something I probably shouldn't have done. I went through Madison's phone. I knew her passcode because I'd seen her enter it 100 times. It was her birthday because of course it was, and she'd left her phone charging on the kitchen counter while she showered. What I found was even worse than I had imagined. There were WhatsApp chats with multiple friends about her project to steal Jake, screenshots of our text conversations where she was analyzing my responses, photos of Jake that she had taken without his knowledge, candid shots of him studying, working out at our building's gym, even sleeping on our couch during movie nights. Everything was framed as her being helpful and supportive, but it was really about establishing herself as Jake's confidant and making sure I knew they were having private conversations about our relationship. The final piece of evidence was a voice memo to herself. Jake's favorite beer is Pliny the Elder. He mentioned wanting to try that new brewery in Pasadena. Could be a good excuse to get him alone next weekend when she's studying for finals. I sat on my bed, staring at all this evidence, feeling sick to my stomach. This wasn't just harmless flirting or friendly competition. Madison had been running a systematic campaign to break up my relationship and steal my boyfriend. But instead of confronting her immediately, I decided to dig deeper. If Madison wanted to play games, I was going to make sure I understood the rules first. And that's when I discovered something that changed everything.
After finding all that evidence on Madison's phone, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about how calculated and manipulative she'd been, and I started wondering what else about her might be fake. So I did what any rational person would do at 2 a.m. I went full FBI mode on Madison's entire online presence. I started with her Instagram, 80K followers, gorgeous lifestyle content, brand partnership posts for skincare companies, clothing brands, and wellness products. But when I really looked closely, things started seeming off. First, her follower engagement was weird. Posts with thousands of likes, but only like 20 comments. And most of the comments were from obviously fake accounts. Amazing post, queen, from accounts with no profile pictures and random number usernames. Then I looked at her tagged locations. Madison was constantly posting from expensive restaurants, trendy boutiques, and luxury spas all around LA. But here's the thing. I lived with her. I knew her schedule. Half of these posts were from times when she was actually home watching Netflix in pajamas. I reverse searched some of her photos and found the same images posted by other Instagram accounts. Madison wasn't just using filters and clever angles. She was straight up stealing other people's content and pretending it was her life. But the real breakthrough came when I started looking into her brand partnerships. I'd always wondered how Madison could afford our apartment, her Range Rover, and her designer everything on what she claimed to make from Instagram sponsorships. So I did some math. Based on her follower count and engagement rates, Madison should have been making maybe $500 to $1,000 per sponsored post. Even if she was posting sponsored content constantly, that's not enough to afford a $3,600 per month apartment, car payments on a luxury SUV, and the lifestyle she was flaunting. So where was the money coming from? I started with the most basic investigation, looking up our apartment online. Turns out, the apartment wasn't leased to Madison at all. It was leased to someone named Robert Lee. A quick Facebook search revealed Robert Lee was Madison's father, a successful real estate developer in Orange County who definitely had the money to pay for a WeHo apartment. But wait, there's more. I looked up the registration for Madison's Range Rover, also registered to Robert Lee. Her credit cards? When mail came to our apartment, I noticed several cards addressed to Madison Lee, not Madison Rivers, like she used on all her social media. Madison had been lying about her last name, her financial independence, and pretty much everything about her life. But I still needed more concrete proof, so I did something that was definitely morally questionable. I went through Madison's mail. I found credit card statements that showed her father was paying for everything: the car, the rent, her shopping sprees, even her business expenses for content creation. Madison wasn't a successful influencer. She was a 25-year-old woman whose rich daddy funded her fake lifestyle so she could play pretend on Instagram. The credit card statements also revealed something else interesting. Madison had been spending thousands of dollars at the same restaurants and locations where she'd been coincidentally running into Jake. Those chance encounters weren't coincidental at all. She'd been strategically positioning herself in places she knew he'd be and using her dad's money to fund the operation. But the real breakthrough came when I started looking into her browser history on our shared laptop. Yes, I know, invasion of privacy, but desperate times and all that. Madison had been researching Jake obsessively. She'd looked up his thesis topic, his favorite professors, even his hometown in high school. She'd been studying him like a homework assignment, then using that information to craft her perfect girlfriend persona. She'd also been researching me, my social media, my class schedule, my friends from back home. She'd been gathering intelligence on both of us to figure out how to best insert herself into our relationship. The browser history also showed that Madison had been looking up how to make someone fall in love with you and signs he's losing interest in his girlfriend. She'd been following online dating advice and manipulation tactics like a playbook. At this point, I had enough evidence to confront Madison and expose her to Jake, but I realized that just telling them wouldn't be enough. Madison was skilled at manipulation. She'd probably find a way to make me look like the crazy, jealous girlfriend. I needed to let Madison expose herself. So I came up with a plan that was admittedly pretty devious, but felt completely justified given what she'd been doing to me. I was going to give Madison exactly what she wanted: a chance to be alone with Jake, and then make sure her true colors were revealed to everyone who mattered.
Here's where I probably went a little overboard, but honestly, I regret nothing. I decided to orchestrate Madison's downfall using her own tactics against her. If she wanted to play the long game, I could play it better. First, I set up the trap. I told Jake that I'd been invited to a last-minute academic conference in San Francisco the following weekend, a completely made-up conference that I knew he wouldn't question because he's not in my field. I said I'd be gone Friday through Sunday and was really excited about the networking opportunities. Then I casually mentioned to Madison that I'd be away and maybe she could keep Jake company since he'd mentioned being bored on weekends lately. Madison's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. "Oh, that's such a bummer that you'll miss the weekend. But don't worry, I'll make sure Jake doesn't get lonely." Perfect. Next, I recruited my friend Lisa, who works in social media marketing and knew all about fake influencers and bot followers. I showed her Madison's Instagram and asked her to do a deep dive analysis. What Lisa found was even more damaging than I had expected. Madison had been buying followers, likes, and comments for years. Her entire online presence was completely fabricated. Lisa was able to trace the fake engagement to specific bot farms and even found the receipts for Madison's purchased followers. This girl has maybe 3,000 real followers max. Everything else is bought and paid for. And these brand partnerships she's posting about? Half of these companies don't even exist. She's literally just posting photos with random products and pretending they're sponsorships. Lisa helped me compile a comprehensive report of Madison's fake social media presence, complete with screenshots, analytics, and proof of purchased engagement. We put together a document that looked like something you'd present to a corporate board. Professional, thorough, and absolutely damning. But the social media fraud was just the appetizer. The main course was going to be Madison's attempted seduction of Jake. Here's what I did. I set up a hidden camera in our living room. Before you come for me in the comments, yes, it's legally questionable, but it's my apartment too, and I wasn't recording private spaces like bedrooms or bathrooms. Then I left for San Francisco on Friday morning, making sure Madison knew I'd be gone all weekend and wouldn't be in contact much because of conference activities. What I actually did was check into a hotel about 20 minutes away and wait. Madison wasted no time.
By Friday evening, she'd invited Jake over for what she called a chill movie night since you must be so lonely without your girlfriend. I watched the whole thing unfold through the camera app on my phone, and it was even worse than I had imagined. Madison had transformed herself into what she thought was Jake's dream girl. She was wearing this casual but sexy outfit that showed off her body but looked effortless. She'd researched craft beer and had Jake's favorite brands waiting in the fridge. She'd even queued up documentaries about data science and technology. For the first hour, she played it cool. They watched movies, shared beers, and Madison was being the perfect friend, asking thoughtful questions about his research, laughing at his jokes, being supportive about his career goals. But then she started escalating. "You know," she said, cuddling up to him on the couch, "I've always thought you were so much more intellectual than most guys our age. It's really attractive." Jake looked uncomfortable but didn't move away. "Thanks, I guess." "I mean it. You're going to be so successful, and you deserve someone who really appreciates that about you." She was practically purring at this point. "Madison, what are you doing?" "What do you mean?" All innocent eyes and casual hair flips. "This feels like... Are you coming on to me?" And this is where Madison made her fatal mistake. Instead of backing down, she doubled down. "Jake, I'm just being honest. We have such a great connection, and I think you've noticed it too. All those times we've hung out, all our conversations, there's definitely chemistry there." Jake stood up. "Madison, I have a girlfriend. You're her roommate and supposedly her friend. But are you really happy? I mean, really happy? Because from what you've told me, it seems like you and she want different things. She's so focused on school, she never has time for the things you enjoy. When's the last time she really listened to you talk about your research?" I wanted to jump through the screen and strangle her, but I forced myself to keep watching. "That's not... Madison, this is really inappropriate." "Is it, though? Jake, I see how you look at me. I see how you light up when we talk about things we both care about. I'm not saying you should break up with her, but wouldn't you like to see what we could be like together?" And then Madison made the move that sealed her fate forever. She kissed him. Jake immediately pushed her away. "What the hell, Madison? Come on, Jake. Just see how it feels. One night, no pressure, and if it doesn't feel right, we'll pretend it never happened." "I'm leaving." Jake headed for the door. "Wait," Madison called after him. "Jake, please. I know you feel it too. Stop pretending like you don't want this." The last thing that camera captured was Madison throwing herself at Jake one more time, trying to wrap her arms around him as he literally had to push her off to get out the door. I had everything I needed. Saturday morning, I came home early from my fake conference, acting like I'd gotten food poisoning and needed to recover. Madison was in full panic mode. She'd clearly spent the night wondering if Jake was going to tell me what happened, and she was preparing her defense. "Oh my God, you're home early. Are you okay? How was the conference?" "It was fine, until I got sick. How was your weekend?" "Quiet. I just stayed in and watched Netflix mostly. Jake came over for a movie last night, but he left pretty early." "That's nice of you to keep him company." Madison was studying my face, trying to figure out if Jake had told me anything. "Yeah, we just watched a documentary and had a beer. Nothing exciting." I smiled sweetly. "I'm sure." Over the next few days, I watched Madison squirm. She kept asking casual questions about Jake, trying to gauge if he'd told me what happened. Jake, meanwhile, was clearly feeling guilty and uncomfortable, even though he'd done nothing wrong. Finally, on Wednesday, I made my move. I'd invited a group of friends over for dinner, including Jake, Lisa, and a few mutual friends from school. Madison was excited because she thought it would be a chance to act normal around Jake and prove that nothing had happened. Midway through dinner, I stood up with a glass of wine. "I wanted to make a toast," I announced, "to friendship, honesty, and people who show you their true colors." Everyone raised their glasses, looking confused but happy to toast. "Madison," I continued, looking directly at her, "this is especially for you, because you've taught me so much about the importance of being authentic." Madison was smiling, but I could see the panic in her eyes. "In fact, I've learned so much about authenticity lately that I wanted to share some insights with everyone." I pulled out my laptop and connected it to our TV. And did you know that Madison's Instagram success is built on purchased followers and fake engagement? The room went silent. I displayed Lisa's analysis on the screen, showing the bot accounts, purchased likes, and fabricated brand partnerships. And did you know that Madison's luxurious lifestyle is actually funded entirely by her father, not her influencer career? I showed screenshots of the lease documents, car registration, and credit card statements. And most importantly, did you know that Madison has been systematically trying to seduce my boyfriend for months, including attempting to kiss him last Friday while I was supposedly out of town? I played the security footage on our TV. The room was dead silent except for the sound of Madison's heavy breathing and Jake's whispered, "What the fuck?" Madison's face had gone completely white. That footage is illegal. You can't record people without consent." Actually, I can record common areas of my own apartment. But you're right that secretly filming people is morally questionable. Kind of like secretly trying to steal your roommate's boyfriend. Madison looked around the room at our friends, all of whom were staring at her in shock and disgust. I can explain," she started. "Please do," I said. "Explain to everyone how you spent months manipulating situations to get alone time with Jake. Explain how you researched his interests and pretended to share them. Explain how you used your fake Instagram persona to make yourself seem more attractive and successful than you really are." Madison's composure finally cracked completely. "You're such a bitch! You set me up! I gave you exactly what you wanted. A chance to be alone with Jake and show him who you really are. And you did." Jake stood up. "Madison, I can't believe you've been doing this. All those conversations, all those times you randomly showed up places, you were stalking me." "I wasn't stalking you. I have genuine feelings for you." "You have feelings for someone you created in your head based on research and manipulation. You don't even know me." One by one, our friends got up and left. The last thing Lisa said was, "Madison, you might want to delete your Instagram before someone reports you for fraud." After everyone left, Madison and I were alone. "I hope you're happy," she said. "Actually, I am. You know what makes me happiest? Jake seeing exactly who you really are. Because now he knows that everything you showed him was fake. Your interests, your success, your personality, even your name." "What are you talking about? Madison Rivers? Really? Your real name is Madison Lee. Your dad is Robert Lee, and you've been pretending to be this independent, successful influencer when you're actually just a spoiled rich girl playing dress up with daddy's money." Madison's face crumbled completely. "You don't understand. I worked hard on my content. I built my following." "You bought your following, and you stole other people's content. Madison, your entire life is a lie." She stared at me for a long moment, then went to her room and started packing. "Where will you go?" I asked. "Back to Orange County. My dad, he's been wanting me to give up this Instagram phase anyway and work for his company." Madison moved out that weekend. Before she left, she deleted her Instagram account entirely. Jake and I are stronger than ever. Turns out that having someone try to manipulate and seduce your boyfriend actually makes you appreciate him more, especially when he handles it with complete integrity.
The best part? Word spread quickly through the LA influencer community about Madison's fake life. Several other influencers got exposed shortly after, and there was a whole crackdown on bot followers and fake engagement. Madison tried to reach out a few months later with a long apology text, claiming she'd been going through a hard time and made mistakes. She said she was in therapy and working on herself. I never responded. Some people might say I went too far, but here's how I see it. Madison spent months systematically trying to destroy my relationship using lies, manipulation, and deception. All I did was expose the truth about who she really was. The truth isn't revenge, it's just the truth. Jake and I are still together, about to celebrate our 2-year anniversary actually. We got a new roommate who's normal and drama-free, and I graduated last month with my master's degree. As for Madison, I heard through mutual acquaintances that she's working at her dad's real estate company now and staying off social media entirely. I hope she's actually getting help and learning to be genuine, but honestly, that's not my problem anymore.